Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about my mess, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is wonderful to see you this evening. I feel great. May is so fantastic because the weather is really nice here. It's not too hot. It does get a little bit humid. You know, I saw a video, and I've got to ask people out there, anybody in Las Vegas, what's with the grasshoppers? I don't get it. But apparently downtown is full of these grasshoppers everywhere. I've never heard of anything like that in my life. So please educate us on that one. All right, let's give a shout out to our sponsor this evening, which is Red Bar. Red Bar has been so kind to us here at the show. I usually have my Red Bar right here, and I do. I have the oatmeal flavor. They are so good, so yummy, and it is whole food. And the calories are not too high. You know what I'm always looking for in a caffeinated, sort of like a meal supplement bar. And when they first came out, they tasted fantastic. All these different bars, they were so good. Everybody loved them, and they had like 500-600 calories in them. That's just way too much. So these start with 230 calories. They have, let's go to my notes here. It is gluten-free, soy-free, dairy, GMO-free, 10 grams of protein in each bar, which only has 2 to 5. So this is depending on the flavor, 2 to 5 grams of sugar in each. Pre-probiotics, so they are tummy good. Let's get their information here because it is spelled REDD. So you can go to their website, which is reddbar.com, Red Bar, and they come in the flavors of chocolate, I say chocolate. Man, there's so many different ways you can do chocolate. This is like a chocolate fudge, oatmeal, like oatmeal cookie, right? And so on and so forth. Peanut butter, mint chocolate, salted caramel, and more. They are now all over the place. I've seen them at Whole Foods, and I went onto their website. So you can find a store locator near you to find these. Of course, they're also available on Amazon, like everything else, thank goodness, because I hate shopping. I don't like it at all. My mother, all right, story time. Let me tell you why I don't like shopping. And Mom, if you're connected, I'm so sorry, but you already know this. She loves shopping. She is a true blue shopper, and she will go to a store with something in mind, and she'll know which store where she could probably find that certain design. She will circle the racks until they bring out more inventory. And so we as little kids had to go with her, and none of us like shopping. So thank God for Amazon. But anyway, you can get Red Bar at Whole Foods, redbar.com, Publix if you're in the Southeast United States, Wedgeman's, that I guess that's in the Northeast, and I totally butchered that name, and I'm not going to butcher any more names. So make sure that you check them out at redbar.com. And we have a very interesting guest connected. I usually have a lot of different people on the show, but I have to tell you, this is a first for me. I have Tim Huddleston connected. He is a writer-producer, right? We've had a lot of producers, we've had a lot of writers, but he is a script writer. And he is here. He's going to tell us about the projects that he is working on that are currently stalled because of the strike. And also tell us, where his love of writing came from. A little bit of an in-depth inside view of who he is. Tim Huddleston presents a new take on Jane Austen's classic novel, Sense and Sensibility, in the upcoming film adaptation of the same name featuring a diverse cast. The new take on the iconic novel is reflective of the current era where racial tension has once again raised its head, so to speak. Having completed the script just days ahead of the current Writers Guild strike means he is unable to polish or make any needed changes to the script until the strike is resolved. He is also prohibited from pitching, offering advice to producers, or even making calls to his bosses regarding his work. As it is, he is continuing to write scripts while suspending work on his current projects. Survivor Girl, an upcoming horror film, Evermore, another horror project, and Ad Infinite. I butchered that. Ad Infinitum, a sci fi series about living in a post apocalyptic world, and Human in the Loop, which is a horror film about AI. Man, that's a great topic. Tim is an Atlanta native who was born and raised there, then moved to Los Angeles to pursue his writing career. And without any further ado, Mr. Tim Huddleston. How are you, Tim? He's coming up. There he goes. 3, 2, 1. Live is live, right? It's great to see you. How are you?
Great to see you. I'm doing great.
That's wonderful. So, I want to dive right into it. Where did your love of writing start? Were you a kid that was always writing?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, like pin down on any like one moment or anything like that. I was always very creatively inclined, so it's like I was a little kid, I drew a lot, did stories with my G.I. Joes and Star Wars figures, stuff like that. Eventually started just writing stuff down, telling stories, and when for me anyway, when I was young, it was almost like I was kind of embarrassed that I did that. It was like, I was very proud of it that I could create stuff, but at the same time, I didn't want my friends to know I was doing this kind of stuff. It felt nerdy and weird. I don't know. My dad was actually a huge movie buff. So I grew up, we watched a lot of movies together. He introduced me to a lot of stuff, like, just great filmmakers. And then, I kind of got into, like a lot of people, young people, who are, kind of heading towards the arts. I got into acting and I did that for a while when I was back in Atlanta, and as a teenager mostly. Then I went to University of Georgia. And it was there back then. They didn't really have much of a film program, or really one at all. So I went in through the theater department, and they also have a really good journalism school. So basically, I majored in theater and minored in journalism, and just brought everything together to create my own version of a film degree. And it was honestly there where I started getting a lot of attention, for the writing I did, where it seemed to be the thing of all the things, I was acting, I was directing, theater and, and short films, stuff like that. It was always the writing that people seem to respond to the most. So, I just kind of, I was lucky. I had some good professors there that took an interest in me and helped me kind of, hone my craft a little bit. This was back in the 90s, so it wasn't like it is now, like where you could just go online and get a million tips, how to write a screenplay or anything like that. We had to learn it like the old-fashioned way. And then just over time, I made a terrible movie in the late 90s before I moved out here in Atlanta. It's kind of I didn't go to film school. I didn't want to get a master's degree. So my film school is just making a movie, 16 millimeter movie. And we did it. We got it done. But like I said, you won't be seeing that on, anywhere anytime soon. I learned a lot though.
What was it about?
It was a story. Okay, so it was a. Have you ever heard of the case of Leopold and Loeb?
I've heard of it.
Okay, there were these two guys back in like the 1920s. Two young guys, who decided to kill somebody just to see if they could get away with it. And so it was just, they were privileged, like just kind of wanted to see if they could do it, and they didn't. So I did kind of it was a story about somebody present day who was inspired by their story and was trying to do that himself. And things went wrong. It was a good script. I just did a bad job on the, on the actual making of it. It turns out it takes a lot of money to make a movie.
Yes, it
And, we didn't have any. But it was, like I said, it was a great learning experience. I learned a lot. And then I did that probably as like 97, 98. Moved out to LA in 99 and eventually got a job as a script reader and also did PA production assistant stuff, like on sets. The script reader job back then, it's just like what it sounds like. They give you a pile of scripts, and you work for I worked for a production company, and or an independent producer really, and they I just read scripts all day and wrote coverage. I would write like coverage for people who don't know. It's basically 2 pages synopsis. So your boss doesn't actually have to read the whole script unless it's good, unless you recommend it. And then like 2 pages of notes. This is what I thought of it, strengths, weaknesses, etc. And then you just pass it up to the ladder to the director of development, and then they'll decide whether, based on your notes, whether you're gonna whether it's gonna make it to the next level, if they're gonna, if the director of development is actually gonna read it himself, or even push it up to the the producer, the head honcho. And
let me ask you about that. Do
yeah.
they still do that process today, or is there more money and politics involved to where a script
Well,
person?
yeah. I mean, there always is. It's the money in politics, that exists. But like the thing is, what has changed about it now is that there's like a industry now about script reading. So, back in those days, you just if you wanted to read your script, you send a query letter to somebody like in the mail, and then they would read it, maybe call you up and say, yeah, I'm interested, I like your synopsis, send it to me. So again, go to the post office, put your script in there and send it off. And then you'd wait for a couple of months, and and then they would never show you the coverage. That just didn't happen. That was an internal thing.
Right.
Nowadays, there's so many places online where you can, submit your script for someone to write coverage on, and there's some legit places that do that, Slated and Blacklist, stuff like that. I mean, they'll charge you money, and then, but they'll show you the coverage and tell you, like, here's what we think of your project. Here's what what we think you can improve and stuff like that. So I know that there are, that there are people who kind of did what I did back then, but they're going in through, it's through a different, it's more direct to the writer rather than working for the production company like I did. Now, I am sure, 100% sure, that they still use script readers, because someone's still got to read the script.
Sure.
And, pass it along. Call them gatekeepers, basically. It's just, they just weed out, all the crap, and which there's a lot of it. It's when I was reading the scripts, it's very, as someone who was fairly young, I was 27, 28 back then. It was both maddening and encouraging at the same time, because you're reading a script from, that came to you from a big agency or something. And you're like, I can do better than this. This isn't good. It's not even that it's not that good. It's not good at all. And how did they get this big agent? And why am I reading the script from them? It's terrible. And so you kind of feel like it's little, disheartening, because you want to, it's like, but I'm better than this, like my skills are better. But at the same time, you're like, well, if this is getting through, like I can do better than that. So maybe I can get through too. And, and if you just honestly just keep being persistent, that's all I did, it's just, you just keep working at it. I know. I mean, I can't tell you, I've been now it's been out in LA 24 years now. That's really scary thought, but you wouldn't believe how many people I've seen come and go in that time. As it's like, if you really do, for anyone listening that wants to, really wants to make it, wants to be in film and TV. I think it's important to be out here. I think you got to come out here. Eventually you can go back to wherever you want to live. It's not, living in LA certainly isn't for everybody. It's tough. Mm-hmm. But I don't really see like breaking into the industry even today, even, like now everything is done remotely, but you're missing out on, if you're not here, you're missing kind of the culture of just like, there's studios everywhere and
Right.
acting classes everywhere.
I noticed that as well. Being in the Atlanta market, there is a ceiling and you have to break through that ceiling. And the way to do that is to go to the source. And the source today is Los Angeles. It used to be New York and Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
New York is for certain things. You have theater, you have fashion. But if it's movies and television and commercials, it really is Los Angeles. And then you spend time there, you learn there, you work there, you go back to another city like Atlanta, and all of a sudden you're an LA producer. I need you, and you book out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really great. And honestly, like if you work in production, like if you're a director, or even an actor or whatever, like, like the actual making, Atlanta's a friggin' great market right now. Like it was not like that when I left, like there was very little going on there. Like it had a pretty good indie scene, but like the, professional stuff that happens now, like I couldn't believe it. It's like, like 10 years after I moved out here, and Atlanta becomes like this huge, like Hollywood hub, and family and friends are like, "Are you going to move back now?" I'm like, "No, I'm still a writer." Like, that most of that is still happening out here. But production wise, yeah, if you're, like if you're a strong crew, if you're trying to climb up the ladder that way, on a crew or as an actor, it's great. There's tons of great opportunity out there.
There's tons of great opportunity, but I do really think even with as busy as Atlanta is, for we've had a solid decade of really great filming and opportunities. The leads are still coming from LA.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's it. It all starts here. It's like, because all these shows that are being shot in Atlanta, they all start in LA, like it's they're put together here, and then it's like, oh, okay, we can shoot in Atlanta. All that stuff started happening because of tax issues, and like, because Vancouver's a big one. And honestly, before Atlanta, Wilmington, North Carolina, was like, that's where they did Dawson's Creek back in the 90s. And that was kind of when the South really started to become a place, a viable place to shoot. Before that, it was just, New York and LA, and that was pretty much it, unless you're shooting Western or something,
Yeah. No, the Southeast made a really strong push for, those tax credits and everything. And when you have a state that's offering you 30%, 37% back of your final budget, that's huge.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's production 360, the housing, the food, everything. You're talking a lot of money.
Yeah.
So of course I can see things, shot in those cities. And but anyway, all right. So let's get back to what you do, which is you're a writer. You are a part of the Writers Guild. Tell us, how did you join the guild?
Okay. Well, first off, I'm wearing my Writers Guild shirt because this is what I wear every day on the walking the picket line, which I'm sure we'll get into. But so when I first got in, again, like, okay, so I'd been working out here, like as a script reader, which later on, like I kind of graduated to a development executive, which is the executive part is kind of the bone they throw you. You're still a reader. You're basically a glorified reader, but there you're also farming scripts. So you have relationships with agents and managers, trying to get product basically, for your, for now, like I had readers under me, that I would give them and then they would pass it to me. And I did that for a while. And then, like I said, honestly, I got a little bored with that and started doing PA work, production system work, where I was actually working on sets, which I also think is valuable. No matter what you want to do, honestly, if you're coming out to LA to be in the film industry, no matter what you want to do it all, because the jobs are really hard to get anyway. So just take whatever you can get, do it, like meet people, get a sense of what it's all like. But anyway, so I was working, I was still working at, as a development executive. And I had a script that I had written, that a spec script that my boss liked and was trying to get made. And so she was showing it to a lot of people. And I met this guy who's a manager and who, just read it, called me, said he wanted to work with me. And then we tried to get some projects going for a couple of years. And then eventually he got hired as a producer on the show called Fallen, which was back in, this was back in like 2006. And so it's, it's fine. There's no one way that anyone has like that gets on their show that, like kind of, becomes like their guild thing or whatever. But so I had been working with this producer a long time, and he got hired. It was by ABC Family, which was the network that now they're called Freeform. They were transitioning. They were actually transitioning at that time. They had showed a lot of very kind of vanilla kind of content, and they were trying to appeal to, they're just trying to do edgier stuff. Yeah. So they had a movie, like a pilot movie shot for the show Fallen, that I had nothing to do with. And the guy, the producer that I worked with, had nothing to do with. But they wanted the show was based on a series of young adult books. And I guess what they did was they for the first 2-hour pilot, they adapted the first book pretty much straight, just straight adaptation. And then they decided that they didn't want to really follow the books for the whatever. They want to do more, but they didn't want to follow the books. So that's when they brought in this new producer, and they were, and he was recommended me as a writer. So, I had to go in a few times, meet with people. They had read my writing samples and all that. And you go in, you just try to talk to them and just try to press, just like a job interview, like any kind of job interview. Eventually I got it, I got the job. And because when you work for a studio like that, like it's ABC, which is Disney, everything they do has to be union. That's their contract. Like now things might be different now because things change with streaming, and like there's different rules about like unions and whatnot. But back then it was like, just me getting hired gets me into the writer's guild because I have to be. They can't work with me if I'm not. So you get in, and I got in towards the end of 2006 probably. And then we finished the show. Like I was still, this is really funny. It's shot in Vancouver. I had not even finished writing the script before they started shooting. So they had to fly me into Vancouver to finish the show while they were shooting the show. And that was in probably, I want to say May of 2007, was it 6? I don't know. Anyway. show came on, did well for them, and not, like actually my career kind of started picking up. Like I was getting a lot of meetings, and was potentially on, some show. I got hired on a couple of shows, and then the first writer, well, not the first one, but my first writer strike happened in 2008.
Wow.
And so, and that strike lasted 100 days. And so I was very new to the guild at that time. And I was like, it's a good little soldier. I went out every day and picketed and all that. And then basically, while that's happening, all this momentum that I'd gained, the work so hard for all these years just completely dried up, and um, I felt by the time the strike ended, of course, every writer in LA is available now. So, you these little newbies like me, we're just kind of, it's just basically starting from square one again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, worked a while. I did get hired on some things, but they didn't get produced. And that's very tough on someone like me, because it's like, you're so proud of the work you do, like you work really hard, 6 months on something, build something that you like, and then they decide they're not going to do it for whatever reason. I mean, maybe it's money, or maybe they don't like the script or whatever, but at the end of the day, I can't do anything with it because I don't own it. And so it's like, I mean, yeah, you get paid, it's a job, but I mean, like, the whole reason any of us are doing this, or that we're out here and doing this, because we want to see the stuff that we write, that we create. We want to see it, we want it to be made.
Sure.
So that was kind of tough, honestly. And probably the only time, this would have been like 2010-ish, something like that.
It was about 15 years ago, right?
Yeah. I would say, the strike was 2008. Yeah. Okay. It was, almost exactly 15 years ago, really. And like I said, it lasted 100 days. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we were going after the same things that we're going for now. In a way, it was the big thing back then. It wasn't so much streaming, it was the internet, like it was like iTunes, like if a show was on iTunes, stuff like that. Sure. So the way that like writers get paid, like the guild sets minimums and stuff like that for the actual work. But then once it's airing, we get what's called residuals, where it's just basically like a piece of the pie. So it's like, if you do a show, like when I did Fallen, mm-hmm. It was for a network. There were ads throughout the whole thing. So people are making money. The studio is making money on that. And so it's like the reason for the guilds, SAG and us and DGA, we're supposed to get like just a little piece of the pie, a little kickback, like for like every time they run the show. Mm-hmm. And they don't like doing that. The studios don't like, I get it. We all like money, we don't want to give away money. And it's like, why are you going to give people money for something that they've already done? Mm-hmm. So the way that I understand now, there's, because a lot of this drama goes back a long way, and the way that I understand is like, writers got a shitty deal on the DVD residuals. Like apparently, like they had a good one on VHS, but then when DVD happened, they got a terrible one. And
this was the strike of 2008.
Well, that was before. So the reason that they struck in 2008 was because they were trying to negotiate the streaming, basically just internet, when content is on the internet.
Okay.
And they didn't want a bad deal like they got in DVD, whenever that happened, like.
Okay.
And so that was the big thing that we were striking for. And the studio's response to that was like, well, we don't really know how this is going to work. We don't know how it's going to be monetized. Not I mean, that's a fairly legitimate point. Although, you can still, like it's still 100%, that you can carve up into pieces, like, but whatever. We didn't really get the what we wanted that time.
Okay.
And so, what they kind of said was like, let some time pass. Let's see how, streaming works. Maybe it's a fad. We don't know, like, well, it's clear that, I mean, it's all there is now, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So they still don't really want to give us anything.
So what did come? So let's talk about 2008, the last strike that happened that
mm,
lasted for 100 days. What, if anything, did you get to end that strike?
honestly, I couldn't even tell you. It
Really?
was like there were concessions that were made, that, but like, as at my level, as a writer, like a young, didn't really have that much, just rank and file kind of writer.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really see how it benefited me, honestly,
Interesting.
at the end.
Okay.
I just think it was just they couldn't have, like, I mean, they got some groundwork laid, I
Okay.
think, like that it's not like they got nothing, like, but I mean, like, it's tangible things, that I could point to and say, oh, that's because of the 2008 strike. No,
Okay.
this time is very different. Last time we were really united too. It's this time 98% of the membership has voted to authorize the strike. They don't just do it, like they ask us, like, so we authorized the strike. They did, they did it, and they've sent us. Here's the thing that kills me. So, for people who don't know, we're striking against an organization called the AMPTP, which is Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, and this is like a collective group that, that the people who make all the studios basically just are like kind of a part of, like, it's how the collective bargaining happens. Um, so whatever the AMPDP decides, all the major studios have to abide by that stuff.
Okay.
So they're negotiating, the Writers Guild leadership is negotiating with the AMPTP leadership, or their lawyers, or however it works. And the thing is what kills me is that now there's certain stuff that, like, okay, so the Writers Guild sent us like the information of like, here's how the negotiations have been going, here's what happened, like right before we went on strike.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's percent, like what you would expect, writers want a 6% raise, AMTP says counters with 2 or something like that. But when it gets into the real sticking points, the streaming and AI, use of AI and stuff like that, the AMPTP is not even countering; they're just rejecting the our proposals. So what are we supposed to do? It's like we're not going to negotiate against ourselves. So it's like, if you're not going to come back with a counter offer, then how is this ever going to resolve? So I don't know. To me, it's like they wanted it. They weren't going to do anything. The AMPTP, they weren't going to do anything until we struck. We are the first of the 3 major, like, of the creative unions. So SAGs and I believe the DGA's contracts are both up. They're both up in June. I think by the end of June, they're both up. I'm not exactly sure on the dates. Don't quote me. But they're essentially in the same boat as we are. So SAG is already out there with us, walking lines with us. DGA, they don't have a huge presence on the lines right now, but they've been coming to all our meetings, showing support, and then all the trade unions, IATSE and Teamsters, stuff like that. They all support what we're doing. It's a big deal. It's just that we have to go first, and as the Writers Guild, and we're the smallest of these unions, so we're easy to ignore for a while, like, except for the fact, like, you have anything that's live, like the Colbert and, like late night shows, stuff like that. They can't do anything right now, like anything that has to be done while the strike is going on, can't be done. So
So that's where the squeeze is. So
yep,
those types of shows cannot go on air, which lets down, the viewership, the advertising dollars, all those. So that's the main squeeze.
right.
But all right, so striking against AMPTP, what is the ultimate, like, what would get everyone back to work? What is that thing that you ultimately say, we have to have this and we want this, but we have to have this?
Well, I mean, what it really comes down, and this is going to sound like a cop out, but it's the truth, is what we want is a fair deal. And so, like I said, like those points I said that they're just not even negotiating us on, these aren't things that are going to go away. These are real issues. Like they're things, some of it are things that we already have, like we already have a residuals deal, right? So it's like, we're going to counter, it's like we're going to try to get something better, something more along the lines of what we want. But if they're not even telling us what they want, then how what are we going to do? How are we going to resolve it? So there are a few things like, like whatever the number is that they decide, the piece of the pie that we get, like that'll come to negotiation, and no one's going to be 100% happy. That's just how these things work. There are other things that honestly, well, like AI, for example, like kind of studios are like, well, why can't we just have AI write a script and then hire a real writer to come in and clean it up? And like, no, we're against that.
Mhm.
Um, or there's other stuff going on with the writers' rooms, which I've never worked in a writers' room. A lot of shows, a lot of definitely late night shows, and a lot of sitcoms and stuff like that are written in where there's groups. There's a big group of writers. There's the leader, who's called a showrunner, who like basically manages it.
Mhm.
And there's stuff, because like you may have noticed, like back in the day, like a TV show was 22 episodes a year, something like that. Now it's like 10, you know?
Mhm.
So, um, now I'm kind of in favor of that, because there's a higher level of quality than, like where we had like, when I was a kid watching 22 episodes of Growing Pains or something
Yeah,
like that.
sure.
It's like, yeah, well, that's a show that's on, like, is it great? Is it, like Succession, right now? No, like, so I'm fine with that, but like the problem is like it's it's very hard to make a living as a writer out here.
Mhm.
So it's like, if they keep cutting the amount of work that you have, and are not paying, because that's another thing, is they're not, our pay is not gone up. It's stagnated, and
Right.
so and so we're working less, we're getting paid less, and then they want to bring in, the robots to just
Yeah,
totally.
I have a question about that. I mean, in your opinion, so with AI, what is needed? What controls, or what's the word for it? I was talking about it on the last show. Um, what is needed to control it so that it doesn't overtake a writer's job? Not that that even seems realistic.
Yeah, I don't like I mean, like the writer's guild position is just, we don't want it, we don't use it, like, and it's, because look, I've read, like, what was it, like a month or two ago, and people were publishing like on Twitter and whatnot, like, like I asked this AI to write a poem about such and such,
Right.
and yeah, like it produces like words, they're technically a poem, like it makes sense. And, but like, is it that good? Like, I don't know, not to me really, like, now, does that mean like a AI can't get better at this stuff? Can it write a show as good as Breaking Bad or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, but we don't want to find out. Like, like I'm way more concerned with a Terminator scenario when it comes to AI than them writing the next Secession,
Yeah,
like, so
I would agree with you.
it's but I mean, like, like it is something that they talk about, that writers talk about on the picket line. It is just, I mean, I get it. It's just like anything else, any other industry where, like, if your jobs are going to be taken over by machines, no one wants that, like, so it's just, but like, is there like a thing, like, like like a control that can be set up so we can work with AI? Probably, like, I mean, like it's here, like it's going to be part of the world, we're all going to have to deal with it.
So can you,
But
oh, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
So can you tell me, what is the environment for you guys that are striking every day? Like, what's happening out there on the street?
It's actually really good. It's we're at pretty much every studio. I've mainly been picketing at Paramount and Disney. And you basically just kind of go to the one that's closest to you, it's most convenient to you. Um, there's hundreds of writers out at all these locations, every day, Monday through Friday. Um, and we just basically just walk in front of the studio, um, and with our signs, and sometimes chanting silly things, and um,
Imagine you're very creative writers, so
yeah,
I'm
exactly, yeah, yeah. and
creative stuff.
and we get like like the late night guys, like Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart and a couple others. I'm not sure. I don't want to credit anybody wrong.
Right.
Sent like a chicken and waffles truck to us, like one. So it's like, we can get free food, and coffee and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But I mean, we're out there, 4 hours a day, every day. Or I mean, each writer is out there 4 hours a day. We're out there all day long, Um, and but it's good. I mean, like I said, like everyone supports it. We all want a good deal. No one, I haven't talked to anyone who's like, screw this strike, we're doing the wrong thing. No, we're all very united. And like I said, the other unions are on our side as well. So look, it's gonna end. The producers kind of say that they're going to hold out a long time because they have a ton of content stored up, and they can just show that until they wait us out, is what
Mhm.
what their strategy is. I don't really see how that makes a lot of sense, but like, they can try. It's going to last. In my opinion, it's probably going to last a while. I don't know if it'll last 100 days like last one. I don't know if it'll be less than that. I don't know if it'll be longer than that. But it's looking like it's going to be, well into the summer that we're still striking.
What day is today of the strike?
Oh God, I don't know. It's 2 weeks in.
2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We started 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. It was May. I mean, technically, like, our contract was up on midnight on May 1st. So at 12:01, May 2nd, we went on strike.
Sure. Okay. Now, I mean, it's very hard for anybody to save up a nest egg to be
Yeah.
out of work for a couple of months. Um, what are some of your peers doing to be able to make it, you know?
Well, that's another thing about, like, being a writer or an actor or anything, when you're working out here, it is hard, it's very hard. Sometimes when you get a job, like, like, look, I'll tell you, like, straight up, I on the union jobs that I've had, I have never worked for higher than the guild minimum. This the bare minimum that the studios have to pay me. That's what I have always gotten.
Mm,
It's not like terrible money or anything. It's decent, but it's only decent if you can keep working. Like, if you can't, then you're, like, it's just like anything else. It dries up really quick. Um, so we're already kind of like, and this is also just kind of LA, like, entertainment industry living is, if you're if you're able to solely make a living on, like, whatever your craft, like, as an actor or writer, director or whatever, then you're one of the really lucky ones, because
mm,
most of us have to do other gigs, like I do. I do like freelance writing for stuff that like has nothing to do, that's not covered by union stuff. I'm not doing that now, because all my effort right now is in the strike. And honestly, like you mentioned that earlier, since Sensibility, I actually got that like I wrote it. I actually wrote the script a while ago, like almost a year ago. Um, but every contract that you have has like multiple steps in it. So it's like you write the screenplay, and then there's a rewrite option that the studios do not have to engage you on, but they can. Like it's like the rate is locked in, and so that's what I got. Like it's they. I think what happened was they want to shoot it, in case the strike goes a long time. They wanted to make sure they had something to shoot, and so they engaged me to write this, right before. So I kind of, got lucky in that sense of like I had a job right up to the end, right to when the strike started. So I'm okay, like now. But it's like I said, like if this strike goes on, 3-4 months, I don't know
Is
what.
it like a no-no to have, some sort of crowdfunding for you guys? Is that not supposed to happen?
I don't know. I don't, like it's there are things in place, like the guilds all have um kind of rainy day funds for people, like if someone really needs it, like the odds of me like going for those resources would be very, very slim. It's more for people like because okay, here's the thing: when we can't earn our benefits. We have to earn money to keep our benefits. So if strike, causes someone to not work and then to lose their health insurance, then there are, like funds that will go to that if that person, somebody gets sick or whatever,
Okay.
hit by a car while we're striking or something like that,
Oh,
needs
I
care,
hope not.
which happens. It does happen. um, so there's stuff that happens that like that will be covered, that will be taken care of, um, but like I said, like you know, again, I've been out here a long time. I've worked some really crappy jobs. I'm not afraid to do it again, that have nothing to do with writing. So it's just, that's just part of being out here,
Right. Right. So can you tell me a little bit, and I know we had talked in the green room for a second because it really isn't totally announced through the trades yet, but Sense and Sensibility, uh,
Mhm.
you wrote the new adaptation to that.
I
Can
did.
you tell me just whatever you can? I mean, I'm not going to do any directed questions because I know you're under an NDA.
Yeah, I mean, like I can talk about it like just kind of conceptually, but basically it's a um, it's a new adaptation, um, but it's designed to have for most of the roles, not all of the roles, but for most of the roles to be played by Black actors. So it doesn't really the way that the approach that we took with it, and I say we mean like because this is a job, like this wasn't like my like brainchild. It was I was hired to do it. um Again, this is because of a relationship I have with a producer who, like she had this vision, and I've worked with her a long time in bringing her visions to life, so that's how I ended up getting this gig. Um, but so it's like I say, it's a bit of an alternate universe. We don't really address why in, uh, early 19th century England, there's, like wealthy Black people, like that's not really what, things were like historically. But the thing about like, if anyone who's familiar with Jane Austen, she deals a lot with class issues and issues of feminism. Kind of like the Bronte sisters also did that. The contemporaries. Um, so if you look at these through a certain lens, the issues that are brought up in Sensibility about class, for example. Uh, you can easily, it's basically people are being marginalized, right?
Mhm.
So you can interpret those as race issues, without even getting into it. Like it's just because of what the audience is seeing, and because of just standards that we have now, like what we look at, and um, so I was really drawn. Like honestly, I didn't know like what was going to happen. Like when I sat down to make the outline for it, I was like, I don't really know. Like even if I'm the right person for this job, but like it all just kind of worked out. It just fell into place. So it's it's a shorter version. It's tighter version. We like it'll be a 2 hour. On television, but that includes advertising. So it's about 105-page script. Generally, the rule is it's a page a minute of a script.
That had to be difficult to try to
It
get.
wasn't easy.
Yeah, that's not a lot of time.
No, it wasn't easy. But it's like there are things like, because basically what I do is I look, there was the version that most people know is the Ang Lee version that Emma Thompson wrote and starred in the 90s. And then the BBC did like a 4-hour version of it, like where they adapted, like the kitchen sink was in there, like it had everything. So I looked at those a lot and just kind of, I noticed like the changes they made from the book, and certain things that I thought like that we could kind of get around or consolidate, and it just it worked out. I mean, I'm pretty proud of how it turned out, and I hope it like you said, it's not officially announced. I hope it is. I hope it will go into production. Does it has more than a snowball's chance. So but again, like like as I've probably said 100 times, I've been out here a long time. Things fall apart like that. Like you just never know. It's always, you do not count your chickens in this business. Like you just hope for the best and prepare for the worst. But and that's got both those things happening right now.
So I had interviewed, I believe it was sometime last year, someone who was in one of your projects, which is fear
Yeah.
frequency. Let's talk about fear frequency. And then if you will, I'd love to talk about the projects that unfortunately are completely on hold right now because of the strike. But it's something that people can really look forward to after,
Sure.
a resolution comes around and you guys are no longer striking.
Right.
So fear frequency. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So yeah, you had interviewed Julian Davis, who was the star of Fear Frequency, and she was also one of the producers and helped come up with the storyline. So what happened was that was entirely done during the COVID lockdown, and we were my creative partner Laura Russo, and we were working on a couple of other projects that you alluded to that we were trying to get going. And then COVID happened. It might as well have been like a strike happening. I mean, like just everything stopped, So we didn't want to just sit around and do nothing. So we conceived of an idea of the three of us, like had an idea of like, how can we, what's something we can do? What's something we can shoot during this lockdown? So Julianne had this great house. We shot entirely at her house. We got really lucky with getting some crew. We kept it super tight, of course, because of COVID restrictions and stuff. But we had a steady cam operator, which, normally that's so expensive, but like no one was working. So it was like, like people just were bored. And so they would help us out, like for, next to nothing, honestly, like comparatively speaking. So we shot it, and within, I think we did 6 days. So we shot most of it in 6 days, and then put it together, and we got a distributor like almost right away. Like when as Juno Films is our distributor. Um, as soon as we were ready, like it just like we were shocked. It was great. And it is up on Amazon for rent. Like it's not Amazon Prime; you have to rent it. It's like $4. Come on, people, right? YouTube, Google Play, stuff like that. But yeah, like it was, and it's kind of like it's not about COVID or anything like that, but some of this, a lot of the themes of things like just isolation and like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. That's all heavily featured in Fear Frequency. And so some of the other things that like other projects that are that I can't really do much on right now. I have this project called Survivor Girl, which is we shot a short version of that. Now it's a feature. Okay, my project, it's a feature film. And that's in essentially development, or I would call it development now, not prep. And it's about a girl, like it's a take on post-traumatic stress. So it's like I got the idea for that thinking like I was watching a slasher movie and thinking to myself, now how like in these movies, it's always a girl at the end who kills the slasher and survives. It's the only one to survive. And when I got the idea for it, I was thinking like, well, you always see like the only time you ever see these people again, like the girl who killed the slasher, is if it's a sequel, if it's Friday 13th Part 2 or whatever, and the killer comes back. I thought it would be interesting to see like a dramatic take on what, like if you went through something like that, what would that do to you? Like to your psyche, like how would you readjust to society after like just such a traumatic experience? So Laura Russo and we made a short film version of that back in 2019, like a 10-minute version, and did the festival circuit with that, and then, like I said, like we were actually trying to make that feature when COVID hit, and things changed anyway. So now that's back in the rotation. And then Laura and I are also working together on a project called Human in the Loop, which is AI, again, going back to AI, horror movie, just about a nefarious AI that like, wreaks havoc on our protagonist and the world around him. So, and Human in the Loop is what that title refers to, is like it's an AI term. It's meaning like when you're training an AI, if there is, it comes to a point to where like a human is no longer moderating it, but it's like in the early stages, it's like you have a human in the loop to basically teach the AI morality. But what if a human isn't a good teacher of morality? So it's like there's a lot of things that can go wrong, like with AI, in addition to them writing TV shows for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the main things. I've got a couple of other scripts. Like, I don't know, we probably don't have time to get into that.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of different projects, and a lot of projects that are on hold. And I know, as a writer, that those have to be your babies. So putting those on hold is really quite troubling. I do hope that the strike ends and there's a resolution that comes around way before this summer. I don't know. I don't see a lot of these, the bigger shows ceasing content for very long. Like that's just so much money tied up in it.
I agree. It's like there's, like the Stranger Things, for example, like the guys behind that were just saying that we're not going to start shooting. Like they have it ready to go, and Netflix wants them to shoot it, and they said no, we're not shooting until there's a deal. So they don't even have like like they're just using their clout, and good for them. That's what we need. We need the big people who have the big shows, uh, you know, uh, standing up for us, and just not letting the studios just run our stuff while we're while refusing to pay us. So
Well,
um,
absolutely. And I mean, that's a huge fan base. And
yeah, no, it's going to have an impact. Yeah, because it's delaying the final season of that show. Like people are
yeah,
going to go nuts. So yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
Oh, sorry guys, but we need you to go nuts.
You could have fans of shows like in the picket line with you going, we got to know what happens.
Yeah.
Um,
They do come, like there are plenty of people walking with us that are not in any union. I mean, some of them are like pre-union, they're aspiring writers and actors. And then some of them are just people that just want to help out, that just support what we're doing. So,
wow.
they bring us cookies,
Oh, that's
donuts.
very
Wish
nice.
they'd bring us more like protein bars and bananas and stuff like that, but we'll take the donuts, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Tim, I wish you the best of luck. And I'd love to have you back on the show again,
Sure
especially
thing.
when some of these projects are working again and you can tell us, how did it come to an end? Because we all are behind you. We want this to come to an end and we want you to get your fair pay, your fair rate.
Thank you. Cliffhanger. We'll find out
That's
next episode.
right. That's right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been wonderful meeting you. You're a friend of the show, so just let me know whenever you're available to come back on.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Everybody, thank you so much for being so interactive and watching. I saw you coming in and popping in and listening, and it really has been fantastic. As always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah. I love you. And I will see you at the next great show coming up. Stay tuned. All right.